My name is Totalbiscuit, and I suck at Starcraft 2.
Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Totalbiscuit, and I still suck at Starcraft 2. Welcome to another episode. Late night one, this one. This is a nice laid-back episode of I Suck at Heart of the Swarm. Of course, from the latest version of the Heart of the Swarm beta. And I wanted to put this one out, specifically because it's just a nice little demonstration of a couple of things. One, just hopefully what I consider to be reasonably solid macro with a huge amount of room for improvement. Secondly, an opening executed properly. And thirdly, the use of Reaper in Heart of the Swarm and TVT at lower levels. So I'm up against this fellow right here. As you can see, just having a little bit of a casual chit-chat. I've been playing an awful lot of Heart of the Swarm ladder, actually, because I'm enjoying it a hell of a lot more than Wings of Liberty. Lot more options, in fact, going into any matchup, really. And since they've done all the changes with the latest patch, I feel enthused to play Terran again, which is something I certainly didn't feel like earlier. Terran was pretty rough in the last patch. I mean, we basically had nothing. We had, like, the Widow Mine. And we had another slightly different version of the Hellion, which was essentially a Firebat. That's it. That's what we got. You see Protoss getting all these amazing new units, get a massive air unit, this little air harasser, they get all sorts of crazy nonsense. And then you see the Zerg getting a flying caster, a ground lord, aka the swarm host, as well as buffs to Hydralisks and all sorts of nonsense. And what do we get? The Widow Mine. Yeah. And the Widow Mine's kind of boring. At least it was. Thankfully, they've made changes to it that make it more interesting. I'm not going to show that in this game, though. If you want to see some Widow Mine usage, I actually did some in Showcraft. It's currently on the stream on the channel. I'd recommend having a look at that. It was on Antigua, actually. Yeah, it was an Antigua game versus a Zerg player. I would suggest that you go and have a look at it, because there's a demonstration of pretty decent Widow Mine usage there. Anyway, what's this all about? Well, I've gone with Refinery first because I'm going to go for a really early Reaper. I don't think you actually need Refinery first to go Reaper. In fact, I know for a fact that you don't, because Refinery first essentially allows you to get 100 gas as soon as the barracks finishes. You don't need 100 gas for Reaper first. You need Tech Lab, and then you need Reaper. So in reality, this is actually a dumb opening. There's no point. Like, if you're going to go double Reaper for some ridiculous reason, alright, you might be able to pull that off, but you'll maybe be able to build two, and then you're going to run out of gas, and you're not going to have the next 100 gas to build the next Reaper, most likely. So he scouts that, or at least he sees something. Doesn't know necessarily that it's a Reaper or a Marauder. Could, of course, just be a really early Tech Lab for no apparent reason. The moment he's going one gas, barracks. I'm going to expand directly behind this. He's just building SCVs. And the purpose of the Reaper Expand, I mean, it's classic build, honestly. You should know the Reaper Expand. This is something that was popularized very early on in StarCraft 2. It's designed in TVT to essentially allow you to safely expand while scouting your opponent. That's the point of it. That is its purpose. And that's what we're going to do here. Now, the speed of the Reaper has actually been buffed, and it's buffed again when you build the upgrade. You still need the factory for that, by the way, but essentially a Reaper at base speed can outrun a Stalker, which makes it super useful in early game TVP, which it wasn't previously, but it's still pretty good in TVT as well. You can jump in, do a little bit of damage, and as long as you're properly macroing in the background, I mean, this is the real risk of doing this at low level. I mean, this is wonderful, because like I get 2 SCVs, maybe even 3, and I take out a Mule as well. That's totally paid for itself. But am I macroing properly in the background? That's the real question. Well, the answer is no. I'm not. I'm not actually building anything from this barracks. So that's the risk of doing these micro-intensive openings when you're really, really low level. And pretty much any teacher's probably going to tell you, look, you shouldn't be doing this stuff. You should be doing like you should get one opening down, one build on, that's it. One racks expand. You know, that'll be a nice, safe thing to do. But I find one racks expand boring, and I'm less concerned with getting better at the game than I am with having fun at the game. So as far as I'm concerned, I like to open Reapers in this matchup because it's fun, it's stylish, and it can be effective when properly controlled. So I've got my Reaper up there. He believes it's Hellion, but easy mistake to make. Now, behind this, I'm going 4 barracks, and I'm going to build an engineering bay shortly after that, and I'm going to go into a 2-base kind of macro mode with the double engineering bay. This is what I like to do in TVT. I like to try and stop them from going like Marine Tank and getting this really entrenched position and just have more upgrades. And generally speaking, I just build pure Marine. The reason being that if you mix Marauders into your force and you're not facing tanks, then your composition sucks. The problem with Marauders is that damage-wise, they're rubbish in comparison to Marines, right? Yeah, they're tougher, but not by much. They don't put out enough damage output to really make it worthwhile. I got my Reaper sitting back there, because eventually he's going to expand. He's pretty late on it. I mean, there's no real reason for doing what he's doing here. He's gone 2 racks, and he's then going into the starport. So he's going for like a 1 base drop at the, you know... I mean, he's going to have medevacs out by, what, 8 minutes 30? He's going to maybe hit my... Assuming he's got the gas for it. He actually does, but I think he's a little bit too busy replying to me at the moment, so I'm not sure that really counts. But yeah, you know, have the drop hit, and it's like, okay, that's fine. That's alright, but it's not amazing. You don't really gain any benefit from it. A 2 racks drop on 1 base is not really all that effective. At this point, as I say, I've got 4 barracks, and I could have more than that if I wasn't getting consistently supply blocked and screwing up all of my macro, right? So that's something you've got to watch out for, and engineering base should have probably been down even before this, just to build a missile turret for basic drop defense, and there could have very well been a Banshee. I mean, he went double gas, so he could have had a Banshee. But he didn't. He decided not to go for that, so as far as I'm concerned, there's all sorts of things that could have caught me off guard here. But at the end of the day, one thing is perhaps more important than anything else, and nice catch there with the concussive shell. That being that I have 4 barracks, he's got 2 barracks, and I've been producing for a lot longer than he has. As regards to my economy, it's obviously better. I'm on 2 bases. One of the basic things to get into your mind, and this is something that I had to do as well, I for the longest time, did stupid openings like 3 racks, especially against Protoss. I went like for 3 whacks, what is 3 whacks? Will someone explain what that is? Am I after a waskily wabbit? A 3 racks plus 1 stim timing push. And that sucks. It's just really, really bad. And if it fails, then you're so far behind, especially if the Protoss has gone for a Nexus much, much earlier. So he goes for the drop right here. Alright, fine. I see it coming in, and I'm like, alright, better react to this. So I start taking fire, lift the starport up out of the way, and numbers-wise, he's going to get completely destroyed. Right, he's got 2 medevacs, great. Well, I've got this many Marines, my stim just kicked in, and half his army's Marauders, which is awful against this. So he's started stepping a little bit, and would I care? No, I could just stand there and shoot him, because I vastly outnumber him. So, in reality, this drop play has really done nothing, and has been completely and totally shut down. Now, after this, he's got this expansion right here. I have managed to delay the expansion, by the way. He did try to expand earlier than this, but I stopped it with the Reaper. That's a really cool thing about keeping the Reaper alive. If he's not careful and doesn't guard the expansion, it's actually a double-pronged thing, because you can guard the expansion against the Reaper, but if you do, then you're not guarding your base, so the Reaper gets into your base and kills everything, which is why the new Reaper upgrade is really, really nice. What it essentially allows it to do is regen health out of combat at a rapid rate, so the Reaper stays alive and has more utility. It's an annoyance throughout the game. So, as you can see, my macro is far, far superior, and honestly, and this is the thing that if you really want to get good at StarCraft should be your biggest focus, is just learning how to build stuff, making sure you're consistently building SCVs. And I'm doing it better than he is, but I'm still not doing it all that well. I mean, as you can see, this base is not actually saturated. This one is. I mean, I transferred some down there, so that's okay. I need to grab that other gas, and I guess I can transfer down here as well, so it's not too bad, but my economy could be a lot better. I mean, his is shockingly worse. There's no real question about that. It's far, far worse. Hasn't transferred down there yet. He's pretty much about saturated here. So he's actually is saturated. Just bear in mind that this work count right here, 24. This is not optimal saturation. That's 3 workers per patch, which does give you a benefit, but if you have more than 1 base, there's no way in a million years you should go for that. So this is deceiving. You should always bear that in mind. Don't pay too much attention to this and say, oh, I've got to get 24. No, you don't. You don't have to get 24. That's just silly. There's 8 minimal patches here. You should be having 16 workers there and then 6 here, yeah? That's what you should be doing. But no, you should not be oversaturating this at all. It's just, it doesn't serve any practical purpose. You get mined out a little bit faster, and yet you've got a bunch of, not so much idle workers, just completely useless workers. Now, in the meantime, I'm just working on my upgrades. I've managed to time them out pretty well. This is something I always forget to do when I'm doing double upgrades. I forget to build the armory early enough and have enough gas to actually go into 2-2. And in TVT, if there are no tanks involved, then essentially in an even fight, the guy with the better upgrades is going to win. Even with tanks involved, of course, that you're going to have a significant edge, but something you have to bear in mind is that tanks kind of negate upgrades to some degree because they do a crap ton of splash damage. So your armor doesn't really matter all that much. Your weapons upgrades are not all that important if you're getting tank splashed, right? That's the simple logic behind that. But in a straight-up fight, there's no way he's going to be able to beat me. I'm lining up 2-2, sort of. It's a bit wonky, but you get the idea. Building 9 Marines at a time, adding on some more gas so that I can just keep up with upgrades, maybe add some Ravens into the composition or something later on. And he's just starting with +1 there. I'm on 53 workers, he's on 37. I could definitely be on more by now, and I should be if I'm going for that third base here. And it's going to pop up there with some Reapers and have a look around. I mean, look how ridiculously fast these are. The movement speed is 425. That's really silly. It's stupidly silly. Not really able to do too much with it. I mean, I think if he was on 3 bases, that the Reaper harass actually mid-game with that kind of speed would be great. It really, really would. I mean, you can see they're regenerating health right now. Look how freaking fast this is. Pretty much almost back to full health already. These things are going to do 11 damage per shot, and they shoot twice, so 22 damage a hit with +2. 22 damage. That's just silly. And unfortunately, it still means that you're still 3-shot an SCV because it's got 45 life and you're doing 44 damage. But if you had +3, you'd be just you're just ripping through them so quickly. As you can see, you know, and that's a great thing. Hey, I've got 4 Reapers mid-game. I'm going to pop into his base and I'm just going to deck him. I'm just going to do more damage, hold him back in his base. It's going with this huge doom drop, as you can see here. But again, there's no chance this is going to work. I mean, you can see the supplies. It's not even funny. I'm on 90 Marines and 6 Medivacs, and my upgrades are absolutely superior. Does the right thing there to pull back those, but I know that he's got a lot of Medivacs and he's kind of drop heavy, so drops into the base, and, well, what's going to happen here, I think you probably realize, is that he's just going to get absolutely obliterated. There's no real chance that he can fight against that many Marines with that many upgrades, so once again, totally shut down. In the meantime, back into the mineral line. It's like, hey, I'm going to go harass that. I'm just going to throw those Reapers away. They still do ridiculous damage, but again, you know, you're trading Reapers for Marines. That's pretty terrible. You don't want to be doing something like that. Now on 61 workers versus the 33 there, and even for someone as bad as me, there's no way in a million years I can actually lose this. And what did I do? Actually, not a lot. I mean, if you think about it, oh, the Reaper harass was super effective, right? Yeah, I won because of Reapers. No. That's the worst thing you can possibly do when you analyze your replays. And you should be. You should be looking at your replays, especially after you've lost, and trying to find out why. Even look at the ones that you won as well. Find out how you won, because the worst thing that can happen is that you get into this situation where you believe you know why you did well, but it was completely wrong. You did well for a completely different reason. So you can't really capitalize on that learning experience. If I say to myself, I did well because of Reaper harass, then I'm completely deluding myself. The reason I did well is because my opponent was too slow in expanding, and I expanded at pretty much the right time and kept on top of my macro. It could have been better. For God's sake, I've got a bunch of Marines here. I'm on 120 Marines. And they're about to have +3. So I can kill 4 of these guys. I mean, I really, really can. I literally can with the army he's got. He can have 4 times his numbers. I can probably still kill him without too much of a problem. And even if I don't kill him, I can outproduce him a huge amount, as you can see. And, you know, this isn't even going to be a contest. We're going to go right in here, and we're just going to obliterate him. Done. Shut down. And that's it. So the lesson to learn from that is that I didn't do well because of my fancy micro and my Reaper tricks or anything like that. And as nice as it is to incorporate something like Reapers into your build, that's not what you really should be focusing on. You should be focusing on the fundamentals that if you have more dudes than your opponent has dudes, the chances are you're going to win the game. It really is as simple as that. And then once you've got that down, you can throw whatever the hell you want into your build. I mean, in theory, I could have just built nothing but Reapers here, and I could have beaten him. Why? Well, let's go back and find out. Let's have a look at some expansion timings here. In my expansion timing was not ideal. As I said, this Reaper could have been out earlier. The earlier gas doesn't make a lot of sense. I could have mined more minerals if I'd gotten this gas later. So I could have actually got the CC down at an earlier time. But if you look at that, I start my CC at about 4 minutes 10, right? 4 minutes 10. Okay, that's... I could even get it down earlier than that. You know, you can get a CC down before the 4-minute mark. When does he start his? And what is he doing? So he's going gas here. What is he getting this gas for? What's the purpose of it? You know, I'm not criticizing him too much as a player here. I'm just saying, I'm using him as an example, really. This is something that I did a lot, and I still kind of do every now and again, is I think, you know what would be really nice right now? A second gas, and I can't even tell you why. Why do I want a second gas? Huh, I actually only got 1 kill there in the mule. Still worth it, because I picked off the mule, but still, that wasn't actually that great. What do I need the second gas for? Why is he mining this gas? Well, generally speaking, the only reason as Terran you do this is if you're going to go super quick up to Starport, which, to be fair, he does go up to Starport, but it doesn't really make a lot of sense. I'm interested to see how much spare gas he actually had. He sunk some gas into Marauders as well, which was kind of weird. But just look what he's doing. 2 racks, 2 gas, which means that's 2 workers that are not mining down here. This is nowhere near saturated. And he also spent some resources on building this, as well as lost mining time from constructing the thing. Popped up there, there's a little bit of a cancellation on the supply dip. You know, it's a little bit annoying, certainly, but this shouldn't really disrupt his build order in any way. So he goes factory, and then he follows it up immediately with Starport. Now, bear in mind, this is fully operational. This is running now, and he hasn't even started his CC yet. That's a bit of a problem. So let's speed up a little bit. I'm going to find out when he puts his CC down. I'm pretty sure he puts it down the low ground, and I'm fairly sure I force it to cancel, but let's just keep an eye on that. Yeah? So he's setting this up reasonably well. I mean, this is nicely lined up, but it's this weird, really late one-base drop attack that in TVT shouldn't work under any circumstances. I mean, really, it shouldn't. And think about the circumstances where this would work. Maybe against a different race, you could do some significant damage here, right? But against Terran, what does he know? Let's find out. Nothing. Yep, so no scan. He doesn't know about the 4 barracks. If he knew about the 4 barracks, there's no way he'd try this. Because, like, oh, he has 4 racks, I've got 2. And he's got nothing but Marines. Now, there was that base going down. He puts down the CC at just before the 8-minute mark. So that's actually like 4 minutes later than I start mine. Which means I already have an almost insurmountable lead. So, in this situation with this attack, it's got to do damage, or you're behind. Like, behind by a large amount. And this is a mirror matchup, so being behind matters even more. You can't have that asymmetry. It's just the guy's just got more guns than you. So you can't beat that, surely. He's gonna go and dump down... I'm not really sure what this was all about. I'm pretty sure I never saw him use a factory unit at any point here. Maybe that's just for another barracks to follow that one up and then do the swap around. That's good. I mean, if you're not going to use the factory, then by all means use it to build reactors, because, quite frankly, they take so long to build that you might as well utilize a useless building, and you can then produce, like, 2 more Marines at a time. So, and you literally can as well, because that's 50 seconds and that's 2, so there you go. I'm going to scout up there, see what I can see. Don't do any damage, but I scouted, and that's fine. And I see that the CC is constructing in his main base. This CC isn't going to be down before the 10-minute mark. That's insane. I mean, I could... If I'd gone the 3CC build here, I could have done so much. I mean, even if I'd gone 3CC, triple orbital, which is a build that you see a lot of pros do, but it's a bit risky on low-level ladder, because guys can be a little bit more unpredictable. You can't rely on them to stay passive. They might just go and attack you, and they're like, oh god, I don't have the micro to deal with this, and they just die, which is not ideal. Even if I'd gone triple orbital, I probably still would have had enough to shut this down. Engineering bay going down there. It's interesting the timing that I put that missile turret down. That was just because I, like, oh god, I haven't got a missile turret. I didn't even realize what the time is. I mean, it was too late for a Banshee or anything like that. And then when the drop finally comes in, he's completely and totally outnumbered. So, the drop doesn't do damage. He also picks a weird target. He goes straight for the starport. And, like, well, unless I'm asleep, I'm not going to let that die. So, he kills a reactor. Alright, that's pretty cool. He stops the armory going up for a little while, but it doesn't really matter because my upgrades are not really there anyway. This gets crushed, he loses everything, and he didn't go for the mineral line. In this situation, if you're going to do an attack like this, and it's ill-advised, I mean, the build obviously wasn't all that well refined, but if you're going to do an attack like this, you should go straight for the mineral line and do some significant economic damage, and then get out, more to the point. if you can keep your opponent in their base, and then you can maybe play catch-up, you could build another orbital, you could just double expand, take your third base, suddenly you've done economic damage, and you're building mules and SCVs from 3 bases, right? Just those kind of things that you have to think about. Just basic fundamentals and mechanics, and just the notion of macro, really. And, you know, he's making too much money here, and he's certainly going to when his orbital goes down. He's only got 2 barracks. He's floating over 1,000 minerals. I'm floating a lot as well, but I'm going to add on a couple more barracks here, and then I can actually fix that. And I'm going to get another 2 sets of upgrades, which are pretty expensive. So I'm going to start that eventually when I remember to. And I'm going to start building Reapers, so that's going to sink some of my gas as well. I'm even building a second starport. Never use it, but hey, building a second starport. So again, just a few things for you to think about, folks, on the subject of really, really basic macro and mechanics. And even when you have just a basic grasp of that, you can throw in whatever the hell you want. You want to be fancy and use Reapers. You want to use Banshees, Ravens, Battle Cruisers. Doing all of those effectively relies on this one simple thing of being able to effectively spend your money. And I'm still not there yet. I'm not even close, but you can see that I'm well beyond what this guy is. So there's so much more room for improvement, and that's something you should have a look at. Have a look at your replays, see how many minerals you're floating, and then the way that you should look at it is that it's a positive thing. I know it sounds dumb, right? It sounds really stupid. How is it positive than floating so many minerals? The way to look at it positively is say, wow, this is how good I played, even at this low level, while floating 1.5k minerals. Think about how many more barracks I could have down, and think about how quickly I could get such a big army and just stomp my opponent. Or think about just how silly it would be. I could just go like 6 ghost academies and nukes all over the place, or go straight to battle cruisers, Banshees, Ravens, Widow Mines, mass battle Hellions, whatever the hell. And why? Because I mined more minerals than the other guy. It's really kind of that simple. Have a look at that and then just think, I don't see bad macro here, even though it is. I see the potential to be an ultimate badass in my next game. That's the way to look at it. My name's Totalbiscuit, and I still suck at Heart of the Swarm. I'll see you next time.